Boo! Welcome back to Ox Tools. I'm Tom. I figured it's about time for a video, and I get a fair number of emails from all my fans and supporters. Thank you very much, all those folks that checking in on me, make sure I'm still kicking, right? So I'm still here. Got some family stuff going on, things like that, you know, life. But I'm still here. So lots of folks are wondering what's Tom working on in the shop, because you know he's working on something, right? So let's just take a look at some of the current projects that are going on, and in subsequent videos we'll get into some of the details of those projects, because some of them are kind of interesting. We got some gear, some wiring, some repairs, some infrastructure stuff that's shop stuff, you know. So let's take a quick look at some of the ongoing projects, and then we'll probably do a meatloaf shortly. I got a bunch of interesting new tools and acquisitions for the shop that are of general interest. So let's check it out. So this is the first repair. This is the motor off of my 6-inch belt sander that I built back in, I want to say, 92 or 3, somewhere in there, 1992. The shop that I was managing at the time didn't have a lot of money, and we needed a belt sander for the shop, and the boss was like, hey, let's wait till next month, or whatever he said. I don't remember what he said. So I had my shop at home, so I had a bunch of stuff laying around, and this 5-horsepower Dayton motor was one of them, and I built this 6-inch belt sander that you guys have seen in my videos, and we'll take a closer look because there's some repairs needed on that, on the structure too. But the bearings finally gave it up. This bearing, I can't even turn it, right? It was making a horrible noise and screeching noise. I've ordered a couple of bearings. They should be here in, later this week or whatever. They're just common stuff. But it was completely full of dust and crap inside, excuse my French, but I've cleaned it all up. Everything is pretty happy now. This shows you the age. This cord was brand new when it was put on, and you can see how crispy that is. And so a few things need to get replaced. But let's take a look at the structure, and you can see how much wear is in the structure that we're going to go after and fix too. So here's the structure of the belt sander, and I don't know, like I said, you guys have seen me use this a few times, but this is the first area that I want you to look at here. So this is the platen that, you know, or the work rest or whatever, and it moves in and out sometimes, like that, and so you can adjust it. You can adjust the gap relative to the belt, and then you can tilt the table however you want. But you can see that thing's pretty chowdered there. Put a straight edge across there. So we got some work to do there. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet. One thought is to replace the table completely, which allows me to kind of redesign the table a little bit, kind of in between. Because sometimes I've wanted this side to be a little longer and to wrap around the belt a little bit, right? So that you can have, when you have what's the example? So when you have an L-shaped part or whatever, you can support it on the table, but you can get inside and grind the inside of that. You know, not that you can't quite do that on this side, but this side, the belt, you can track it all the way out to the outside edge, right? So you can get it right dead nuts on the outside corner by just adjusting the tracking. So I'm thinking about that. I haven't quite decided. I may just mill this flat and then add a piece on and weld that on and dress it up and replace the worn part. The other thing is the platen's a little wonky there too. So instead of making a new platen, what I'll probably do is, it's mounted with fasteners this way, is I'll just drill and tap this edge, and I can flip it around and I get a get a second use out of it. I think, 1992 till 2025, that's pretty good, right? So I probably won't need to make a new platen, let's just put it that way. So there's that. The upper bearings are okay because I replaced those maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. Some general cleaning and lube and whatnot, and it's back in action. So that's one project at the Ox Tool shop. Here's another repair project. So any of you guys have one of those friends that gives you really good stuff, but there's just a minor problem with it that they don't have time to fix, and they're smart enough to ask you about it, and because they know it's too good to throw away and that you'll probably take on the project. So guilty. So this is a cool electric, it's like a 1 ton or half ton, I can't remember how many ton, chain hoist, electric chain hoist, 110 volt, and oily. Now, my buddy was using it. He had it set up, I'm trying to remember what he told me, how he had it set up, but the bottom line is he had removed the pendant, okay? He had removed the pendant from it, and I think he was running it remotely off of a switch because it was up so high he couldn't, the pendant wasn't long enough, so he just rewired it down lower, I think is what the situation was. So he gave me the hoist. He says, "Oh, this hoist is really good, you should take it," right? And I'm, "Oh, okay." So I took it, and it's kind of a nice hoist, and it's, it's light enough you can pick it up, and and it's better sometimes than cranking your brains out with a chain fall, right? But he couldn't find the pendant, right? Well, I don't know, a couple months later he found the pendant and he gave me the pendant. So anyway, but I got into it here, and man, these wires are they're like, I don't know if you heard that. It's like pretzels, right? The insulation is just wasted. So I'm trying to figure out how far back I got to go here, and the wires have been overheated. So there's been, and I'm colorblind, in case you guys didn't know, but brown and burnt red kind of look the same. So I got this, here's my wiring diagram that I'm working off of, that's inside the cover here, that's, yeah, reasonably complete, and anyway, project in the shop. So I got to find some of these little push-on spade connectors here, and kind of work my way back on the wiring to, there's a bunch of terminations on this side. Anyway, it's a project. So as you see, it's on the bench. It's waiting its turn. I got into it. Oh, I need some connectors. I need some different wire that I don't have, et cetera, et cetera. And then the question is, okay, that's probably not long enough, right? And this is a special cord here because it has, guess what, a steel cable inside it so that you can pull on this and drag this along with the trolley, right? And not stress out the wires. So I have not found that cable yet. So I may have to go to CM and see if they'll sell me a, I don't know, 10 or 15 foot piece of that, and then do that. So anyway, research, it's all the fun stuff, right? Find the parts, gather up the parts, and then execute the project. So it's what we like to do, right? So this is the next deal here. It's a new acquisition for the shop. It's this bead blast cabinet, and so I went and picked this up from San Jose. It came from a friend of mine's shop, or a estate, I should say. And so I had to haul it from San Jose, and then replace some parts on it, some hoses and whatnot, and it's operational now. And I got it on wheels right now, and it seems to be fine. This allows me, I can push it around and create a little bit more space. Knowing what I know now, the concrete pad I poured out back for my compressor I would have made it bigger so this dust collecting unit could be outside, because theoretically it's supposed to be outside, and it's just this really awkward shape, and it doesn't sit well in the shop because it has a 6-inch duct hose connection that doesn't make real sharp 90-degree corners and whatnot. So ideally that would be straight out the wall behind this, right? And then it's the noisy part of the unit too. So that noise would be outside in a little enclosure or whatever, right? But hey, hindsight's 100%, right? So if you're thinking about that and you have a dust collecting unit, I would suggest putting a little, buy one of those Home Depot little sheds, put it on a little pad outside, stick that thing out there and let it make noise all day long out there and not bother you in the shop while you're working. So anyway, Tom's 2 cents for it. So yeah, I got it on wheels, and that's how we moved it out. I C-clamped the angle iron with the wheels on it, and we just rolled it out and onto the trailer. But then I started looking at it, and I'm like, heck, why don't I just screw those to the legs and leave them on there? So the stock legs, there's about I don't know, 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch underneath them. Actually, it's 3/4 plywood, I just remembered. 3/4 plywood. And I can scoot it around and move it wherever I want. If I want to do something, if I need to have access, better access, or I don't know what. So anyway, it's easy to move. I'm starting to put everything on wheels, and just so I can reconfigure the space. Anyway, new acquisition, works great, and boy, once you have one of these, you're like, how did I live without this thing, right? All the stuff you can clean before you weld it, or silver solder it, or whatever, right? It's just absolutely fantastic. A lot of these belt sander parts, I'll bead blast to clean them up just because it's easier. Okay, so this is another repair project here. Most of you guys know what this is. It's a industrial dough mixer, and now I've done some videos or a video at least, on new gears for a KitchenAid mixer, right? Well, here's the deal. Those quote unquote professional duty KitchenAid mixers are just not up to the task for people that make bread. And they're really not rated, they rate them in cups of flour or whatever, right? But the way commercial mixers are rated, they're rated in quarts at a particular hydration, okay? And which basically translates into viscosity, right? So that's why commercial mixers look like this and KitchenAids look like little rinky-dink countertop toys, right? Okay, so bottom line is, if you're a serious bread maker, this is the kind of setup that you really kind of need, right? And this is almost the smallest one that they sell. Okay, this is a Burkle, which Burkle and Hobart are somehow paired together, and they share some designs. I'm not sure what that relationship is, but a friend of mine at work, Derek, thank you, Derek, he ended up with an extra one of these. He did some work for a commercial bakery, and they decided to close up, and he ended up with some of the equipment, and he already has one of these, and he knew I was kind of fishing around for one, so he says, hey, I got this one, and it's the same old story. I got this one, but it has a little problem. I guess I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, right? So let me show you the problem. Let me grab the stuff here. So here's the problem. It's a dead worm gear, right? Well, this worm gear is $600. Cha-ching! Right? And which, if you're a commercial bakery, you buy 4 of them and you put them on the shelf, right? I guess is what you do. And I said, hey, well, maybe I'll just make a worm gear for this, right? So anyway, I took it all apart to get the gear out of it, right? And then this is the worm, and this actually goes on the motor shaft here. And this is a pretty interesting worm here. It's a, yeah, I think you guys should be able to see that. It's a 5-start. it's a 5-start or a 5-groove worm. And they do this for efficiency. So the more starts and the higher the helix, the more efficient the gear set is. It's not necessarily self-locking, but it transmits more power or efficiently. So now here's the drag. So I said, oh well, I'll make a hob, and the hob is basically looks like this, except it's relieved so that it can cut. And then I'll use my hob that I just created to cut the worm, right? And I go, yeah, cream cheese, piece of cake, right? Well, I started looking at this and taking some measurements, and the lead on this, I don't have, my lathe does not go to a low enough lead, and this is 1.25" lead, I think is what it is. I think I only go down to, I can't remember what my lathe goes down to, but I say down, right? But so the coarsest possible thread is what I'm referring to. So basically, that's how you produce this. Is basically it's a thread, and then you index 1/5 of a turn, and then you cut another groove, and then you 2/5 of a turn, and you cut another groove until you get to full depth, and you end up with one of these. And then what you do is you relieve this in a helical fashion, right? So that these edges are now cutting teeth, right? So the form is equal to the cross section, and then it's relieved behind that edge, and then when it rotates, it cuts. Like an end mill, kind of like an end mill. So anyway, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here on this, because I either have to have design the hob and then go do the hob at a friend's shop that has a lathe, or a CNC lathe, or a lathe that has a 1.25" pitch. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do on this. So it's taken apart. I know what needs to happen. I could also buy the parts. Okay, I could do that, but that's cheating, right? Isn't that cheating? Let me know in the comments. That's cheating, right? I think it is. So, I mean, we have to put in several hundred hours of work and no money, right? That's the game, right? So, anyway, at least I think that's the game. So, anyway, this is the part. My shop smells like the gnarly grease that's in this housing here. Measuring the center distance was kind of interesting. I had to make a little plug that fit in the bearing bore, and use that to measure the center distance. I guess I should pick that up so I can explain the center distance, right? So the center distance is from this axis to this axis, right? You need to know that number pretty precisely to manufacture a gear set, and ideally. So I'll probably just buy the parts and then get the thing running, and not make a career project out of it. So anyway, that's something that's on the books and going on. And let's look at the next thing. I got more. So you ever have one of those deals that the project creates several other projects? Because I know it happens to me all the time. So this cabinet is a good example of that. It's a really nice cabinet. So a friend of mine calls me, he says, hey, shop's going out of business. I think in Hayward or San Leandro, here in the Bay Area. And he says, I got this cabinet. He says, you want it? And he sends me a picture of it, and I said, geez, that looks like one of those heavy duty, super heavyweight cabinets. He goes, yeah, it is. And anyway, so he offers me a price that you can't refuse, $300. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it, right? So anyway, so I pick it up at his place, and after several weeks of messing around, because he was in the midst of having a baby, or his wife was in the midst of having a baby. So anyway, finally picked it up, and it's in my big truck. Well, as you see, this thing's, it's 80 inches tall, pretty much, or 78 inches high, something like that. There's 1 inch between the top of the cabinet and the bottom of my crane beam. So I got to figure out a way to get this out of the truck. Otherwise, it's going to be living in my truck. So I looked at several scenarios about how to modify the crane. You know, do I bug my neighbor with his tractor? You know, what do I do, right? So anyway, what I opted to do here is make some elevators or stabilizers, whatever you want to call it, that allow me to raise the crane. And these will go up quite a bit higher than this, actually. And it ended up being probably logistically the simplest way to do this. Another way is actually, I don't know if we can see that in the frame. Let me just double check. Another way to do that would be to raise the beam up at that joint there, right? So another piece of tubing or two pieces of tubing and a couple of plates, and raise that beam up and get some additional work height out of it that way, right? But then I'm like, well, geez, I got to lift that beam up. How do I do that safely by myself here? I got to buy some tubing. I got to find some heavy plate, yada, 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 right? Anyway, this lower solution seemed like the most logical or the best option to me. So yeah, now once you get the cabinet out, right, this is going to become my flammable cabinet. It'll be outside, and all my oil and gasoline and chainsaw fuel and all propane tanks and junk like that, that ideally you don't have in the shop. I'll have that outside, so it can do what it wants outside. But this thing is it's a monster cabinet, right? It's 6 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and 6 feet tall inside, and it had all these bins and stuff with it too. And these are all set up to, in the doors even to have bins. So I got a whole bunch of bins. A lot of these will probably end up down at the bash because I don't need all these bins. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's a project that created another project, right? That you have to execute. So anyway, that's normal stuff, right? So here we got a shop infrastructure improvement, and so yeah, I'm making steady improvements on the shop. Not as fast as I want, but this was something that I really wanted, which is a sink inside the shop. And if you don't have that, or you're planning on building your own shop, please plan on having some water and a drain, because it's just quite the shop luxury to have a sink and hot water. So this one's supplied by a little 2.5 gallon electric water heater, which is plenty for washing your hands and washing some parts or whatever, right? And runs off 110, and it'll run off a 15 amp circuit, which is nice. And this came off Facebook Marketplace, and I went and picked it up. It was like $100, and I had to make some washers here, some decorative washers. I had to get some new paddles and some new gaskets in the. I mean, this faucet. This is a $300 faucet, right? So it's a commercial faucet. It's a Fisher, I think, and it's worth what I paid for the whole thing, right? And this is a restaurant sink with a single basin. Which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted sideboards, but I just couldn't quite. Okay, let me back up there. I found plenty of them, but there are so many darn flakes on Facebook Marketplace, I cannot believe it. So heads up, folks, if you put something for sale on Facebook Marketplace, please answer your messages, because this is how you sell things, right? Now, I'm not saying that any of you guys are doing that, right? Of course, you guys, you're my fans. You guys are all pretty much perfect, right? But there is a ton of flakes on Facebook Marketplace. It is unbelievable. and extremely frustrating. I found the perfect setup. It's a right-hand drain board or a left-hand drain board, and it's got a faucet, it's got everything, and they want $150 for the whole thing, and it's on my commute route. I mean, it's just everything perfect, right? They don't respond to messages. And, you try, and then finally you just give up, right? And and then you keep bumping into their stupid ad that's still on there, oh, it listed 19 weeks ago, right? And it's like, just please answer your direct messages. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a rant there, but it really annoys me when people are not businesslike. Okay. Anyway, nice upgrade to the shop. It's right near the EDM over here, which uses water too, and more on that later. So. All right, let's put a bow around that and tie that one up and call that a shop update video. And like I said, I really, appreciate the folks that sent me emails and reached out to me to make sure I was okay. And I answered as many as I as I could, given the circumstances. But I do appreciate that, and thank you very much for those folks that did that. And so I plan to make more videos, and but as you know, life gets in the way of these things sometimes, and you got to take care of business, right? So good talking to you, and like I said, I plan to make more videos, and I'll see you soon. Okay.